everybody, welcome to a special episode of Nanocast where we're going to talk about Solidus, all the features that have come out of that, where things are going, and how it's going. Today we've got Brian, Patrick, and Wesley. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves and tell us who you are?
Hey everyone, I am Brian. I work on the communications team at the Nano Foundation.
Hey everyone, I'm Patrick, new to the show, and I work in IT security. I'm just a big nano enthusiast.
Hi, I'm Wesley, and I'm a core protocol developer.
Awesome. Now, I was just thinking, everybody kind of has a different role in the nano community, so we each have kind of unique perspectives on what's gone well and how Solidus has benefited nano in general. So whoever wants to go first, what have you seen as the positives so far?
I guess I could take a stab at it. So as a nano enthusiast, I'm always looking for features and developments that make the protocol faster, more robust, more secure. And I think we saw a lot of that in this version 19 upgrade. One of the big ones, obviously, is spam mitigation, which includes dynamic proof of work and proof of work prioritization, which a lot of people have been asking for a long time, I think. So for me, it's really cool to see the progress that Nano is making in this space to really be a global cryptocurrency, a global digital cash that can actually be used and be robust, because obviously we don't want the network to die as soon as an attacker or even a legitimate user just hits the network too much. The fact that we can have prioritization and always have legitimate transactions go through, that's phenomenal. That's great to see.
That's awesome. Wesley, this seems like a good time for you to kind of talk a little bit about exactly how DPOW or DPOW works.
Yeah, sure. So with every nano transaction, there's a proof of work associated with that. And if there's a lot of spam going on, it can be a bit difficult for genuine transactions to go through as quickly as you'd like. So the dynamic proof of work allows a different proof of work than the baseline to be created so that a person can pretty much overtake any of the spam transactions.
What would you say, just as kind of having your ear down to the community, has been the most well-received upgrade to Solidus that came with Solidus?
I think if you're looking at a community-wide aspect, I think the most, the simplest thing that excites people and the easiest to understand is the speed. The speed associated that's getting cut down with every version of the node that comes out is obviously exciting. It's one of the fundamental, if not most spoken about, aspects of Nano that separates it from everything else. It's just pure speed. It's simple, efficient in its speed. I think the thing you don't really see that excites me necessarily from the community that is just from Bolton to Dolphin to Solidus, you're seeing releases that are getting beefier and beefier in their substance, yet there's less and less hiccups that are coming out of the releases, and I think that's testament to all the work that the beta testers and the developers are putting in with every release. And no longer are we having issues when the node comes out that the X and X is wrong, we need to fix that. And now once they're out, they've been so tested through Zach and Wes and everyone else that they're just strong. They come out and they're already where they want them to be, which I think is really exciting, and it just shows how much effort and work's really been put into this stuff. That excites me.
Something I think the community is also excited about, but kind of in an indirect way, is the easier exchange integration piece. To do that, part of that was the TCP network conversion, and then also confirmation, I believe, makes exchange integration a little bit easier. So I know the community is not excited for those specific features particularly, but they're really excited about the potential for more exchange listings in the future. So that's exciting for me to see all the hard back-end work that goes in to make that vision a reality.
So Wes, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about the biggest differences between TCP and UDP, and why is that important?
Sure. So UDP is very quick. There's a lot less restrictions with it. You just send it. If the person gets it, great. If they don't, oh well. TCP establishes a three-way handshake. So to initiate a connection there's a bit more steps involved. But once you've already established it, then you can keep that connection. So while it's more difficult at the beginning, when you're continually transferring live network data, which it does now with the TCP protocol, it also guarantees delivery. So I think that's helping a little bit as well, because we might send a UDP packet to a node and listen for a response, and we may never get it. So.
And then does this help with security in any way as well?
I think for services probably, because they're not a fan of running, opening UDP ports. So I think that probably has hindered.
Cool. So hopefully this will allow more service providers to integrate Nano into their services, which is awesome. And another question, I know that there's that new website being worked on, and one part of that is this new docs page that gets updated with all kinds of updates of what's going on. Have you guys used that at all to keep up with Nano?
So I use it pretty heavily. The docs.nano.org is almost like a living white paper to me. And I think anyone in the community can actually contribute because it's backed by a GitHub repo. So you can submit a pull request if you see some typo or something that needs to be changed. And then the Nano team can go approve that if they think it's relevant. And then it updates automatically, which is pretty cool to see. One specific part of the docs.nano.org site that I really like is the upcoming features page, I guess it is, where it's, I think in the past we had like a dedicated roadmap page, but now it's a page that's pretty frequently updated by Zach that lists what was just completed in Solidus and past versions, what's in progress, which I think right now is listed as dual phase voting, durable vote snapshots, local account priority bootstrapping, which I'm really excited about, and also moving the wallet out of the node process. And I think that's all for V20, hopefully. I guess it depends on development. And then it also lists beyond that, what are some of the key planned features. And I think ledger pruning's in there, different proof of work algorithms, things like that. So I use that site all the time just to see, hey, at a quick glance, what's going on with the Nano community and the Nano developers.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I remember before that was out, it was like if you wanted to find out that stuff, you could if you got on the Nano GitHub. But for somebody who isn't a programmer, it takes a little while to kind of navigate your way around, and it doesn't really prioritize things the way that website is doing. That's sort of curated for us.
Yeah, one of the things when Andy and Zach came onto the team was priority for them is really reorganizing everything. Like you said, is hard to find a lot of these things, and Zach especially got all these resources into one central location where people like Patrick could access them, which I think going forward is really important, and just to be more accessible to everyone that's interested.
I have a couple questions, one for Brian and Patrick, and then kind of the developer version for Wesley. As far as contributing to the community with questions or ideas, posting on Reddit or in Discord, Patrick and Brian, what do you see the most positive way to do that as, or the most positive questions to ask, think about? And then for Wesley, if somebody wants to start doing some development work for Nano, what's the best way they can get involved with that?
I think, to answer that question, I think what you saw Patrick do in his recent video and subsequent Reddit post is really the best way to question, the network, the protocol, the future of Nano is to, be as objective as possible, look at the pluses, the pros and the cons of Nano, and question, if you have questions about it, ask it publicly. There's public forums both on Reddit and Discord, and there's developers, there's basically developer community members. There's a lot of people with a lot of knowledge that are more than willing and more than happy to help you answer some of those questions. You just really have to ask. It is really a wonderful community. We talk about it a lot, but it's very inclusive in that way.
Yeah, I think Brian really nailed it there. There's a lot of good resources in the community, and even for simple questions, which I personally think you should look up the resources that you have available and try to get some information for yourself first. But even without that, there's a lot of people in the community that are willing to help out new members to Nano. If you have a basic question about how do transactions get prioritized, how does the block lattice work, there's a ton of very knowledgeable people on the subreddit on Discord that are willing to answer those questions. As far as what questions should you ask to promote healthy discussion, I think we should really be questioning everything in a way. We should look for ourselves and see, okay, people are telling us Nano does these things. Does it actually do these things? Can I check for myself? What are some of the challenges there and how are they addressed? But also keep an open mind and be willing to change your views on whatever comes up. Go do the research and take the time to learn. Just jump in however you want to jump in.
Yeah, if I before Wes gets on the developer side, just to add on to what Patrick's saying, I think what separates Nano, I am biased, of course, and I recognize my own confirmation bias here, but I think what separates Nano in a lot of ways is that cryptocurrency, as it is right now, there's a lot of hive minds. There's a lot of uh, team-based things going on. You know, once you like a crypto, people seem to want to ignore the relatively obvious flaws sometimes with their cryptocurrency. I think what is great about this community and what's great about Nano is that people are looking at Nano. They're like, hey, X and Y, there's an issue with it. Here's my issue with it. How are we going to address it? And I think it's fairly transparent in that way, which is why I'm part of this project, why I think a lot of people like Patrick and Wes got involved in this project. Um, I think Nano really does separate itself in that way. And I think going forward into the future, if we want to be a currency, a global currency, that's pretty fundamentally vital to the project.
Well said. So if there's any developers looking to get into Nano, I'd say the first thing is just download the source code. It's really easy. There's loads of wiki pages or on the new docs.nano site, and just have a look. Um, it's quite difficult for us to suggest things because we don't really know what the person is interested in, what their skills are, and there's not that many sort of easy, simple tasks to do on it. So I think if you're interested and you've had a look, you have no clue where to start, then give us a message on Discord. It's probably the easiest in the development channel. There's loads of people there willing to help. Yeah.
Another big piece of news in the Nano community was the Nano UK meetup. Looks like there were a lot of cool speakers there, a lot of cool developments just surrounding that event. What do you guys think about that?
I think it was hugely beneficial, and I think it was really exciting to see. I would have liked to gone. It's quite a trip for me, but it sounds like from my talking to Andy and others who were there was a lot of excitement there. There was a lot of good exchange of information and ideas. There were fun projects like from James Coxon with his penny exchanger, and was it the Nano Arcade, I believe, was there as well. A lot of like proof of concepts, which I think is really cool. For me, what I took that was most exciting from the meetup was Neil, I want to say Heron. I don't know how to say his last name. Apologize if he ever watches this, but in his capture labs with his capture point of sale devices, his company based out of the UK, and subsequently down the road they put out their, I guess you could call it their cryptocurrency white paper on how and why they went about choosing a cryptocurrency that they could put into their proof or their point of sale terminals around the UK. How they found Nano. They put Nano up against, I think it was like 10 other cryptocurrencies, and they had certain key points they wanted to see in a cryptocurrency. It had to be fast, it had to be secure, it had to be scalable, and through their own objective process chose Nano, which to me that's adoption. It's a process, but that's adoption right there. It might not be sexy to what people want to see, but it's really important. So
I would echo those comments for sure. I think anyone who has the time should take a look at that Capture Labs white paper because it's really well laid out. It's pretty simple, to be honest, and it gives you the perspective of a financial company that's really outside of the cryptocurrency space, looking into the space and saying, hey, how can we use this technology in the real world in our products? And so to do that from a financial institution's perspective, they have to do a lot of research to say, hey, here's the different things we're looking at. What about scalability? What about security? What about transaction fees? And they evaluate all of those different aspects. And to see a company like Capture Labs do that research themselves and come to Nano, that's huge. And plus, it's a public white paper that other financial institutions will see and read and reference. So, like Brian said, that's adoption. That's huge, and it didn't get as much attention as it probably should have.
Awesome. And Wes, you were actually at the UK meetup, I assume. And I think you may have spoke, and that means you also know these Capture guys. So what are your thoughts on all this? Was it an awesome meetup?
The meetup was amazing. It was really well organized. Everyone was lovely. Got to communicate with so many people. James Coxon, he's a lifesaver. Literally 30 minutes before the workshop was supposed to start, everything was arriving, all the computers, all the parts, and he had to do so many things to get that all sorted. And it ran so smoothly. It was amazing. The presentations were awesome. I think we're going to be releasing some or all of them soon, I believe. So that'd be really interesting. They are definitely worth watching. It was great.
Awesome.
Yeah, and there will be more videos put out in the future. We just wanted to get that recap video out first, but there will be more presentation videos and everything coming out.
The last thing that I kind of wanted to talk about in this episode is, Colin, the creator of Nano, has always been really good at communicating, always keeping up with Reddit posts and getting on and commenting when he thinks it's necessary, when things aren't quite understood right. And he thinks it may impact the community negatively, which I've always appreciated about him. But more recently, a few days ago, last week, he did an AMA, which is awesome. Not the first one he's done, or is it the first one he's done? I think he did one like a couple years ago. But it was awesome to see somebody who created this amazing currency that we all love getting on and answering questions. Was there anything that any of you guys took from that?
I think there was a lot of good stuff out of that AMA. One thing that the community, I think I mentioned it before, but one thing that the community is really excited about is exchange listings. And typically, like Wesley said, that they keep that under wraps. There's NDAs, all that in place. But Colin did say that they've reached out to all major exchanges. They're working on implementations. Not much more details than that, but it's a good reassurance that work in that space is continuing. So that's always nice to see. Also, there were some good answers about long-term scalability of Nano and some of the priorities and upcoming features to make the Nano protocol as robust as it could be.
Yeah, I think if you pour through the AMA, like Patrick was saying, Colin really, he didn't hide from any of the more difficult questions. The big things on like probably your everyday community member, exchanges, developer fund, what's the deal with Appia, all of these things that I think a lot of people in other teams potentially would be a little hesitant to answer or kind of skirt around the issue. Colin talked about them and he's very transparent in that way. He answers the question. You give him a question, he'll give you an answer. And I think that's really was refreshing to see.
Yeah, I just to speak to that exact point, I was just looking over the AMA here. Somebody asked, what could be the most significant change made in the Nano protocol in the next 12 months? And he didn't keep it a secret. He just said, two-phase voting, changing the POW algorithm, structured network overlay, just totally upfront. There's nothing secret about it. This is what we're doing, which I thought was pretty cool. All right, well, that's it for this special episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Maybe we'll do some more coming up. Let us know if you want to see more, if you liked that, if you're glad we're back at this. And hopefully we'll see you next time.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Bye.